Last night at dinner, my father-in-law insulted my cooking and said, "Women like you. In my home, you'd be shown the door. Lazy and good for nothing." My husband didn't even defend me. Okay, before anyone jumps down my throat, I know family dinners are supposed to be awkward sometimes. For example, you make jokes, you take a wine break in the bathroom, and you text your group chat about how you'd rather be watching TikToks in bed. However, last night was different. Last night was beyond awkward. It was as if the universe decided to show me exactly where I stand in this family, and I received the message loud and clear. Some context first. We have a tradition where my in-laws come over every Thursday. It's never fun, but I tolerate it. My husband, Kieran, says it's good for the kids. We have two, a girl and a boy, both under 10. I'm not trying to deprive them of family, but I wish it didn't always feel like an exam I didn't study for. Kieran's parents are old-fashioned. His dad, William, genuinely believes women should be grateful just to be provided for. His mom, Alexa, is the type who will fix your hair mid-sentence or say things like, "Oh, you're wearing that," with a smile so you can't even be mad. I try to keep things light and make simple dinners because I'm tired, and Thursdays always feel strange after a long week. Yesterday, I made a pasta, some vegetables, cheese, baked and done. The kids like it, it's easy. I'd already had 3 calls about school, plus one meltdown over a lost water bottle before noon, so I wasn't about to go full MasterChef. From the moment they walked in, I could tell William was in one of his moods. You know the kind. He huffs, puffs, and acts like everything is an insult to his existence. He's been extra lately, probably because he's getting older and feels no one listens to him. Spoiler, we don't, because he rarely says anything worth hearing. It started with the food. I was serving, and he was making faces as if he smelled something rotten. The kids started giggling, which made it worse because now he had an audience. He poked at the food and said, "Is this the best you can do?" Honestly, I wasn't surprised. He said worse. But Kieran, instead of shutting it down or ignoring it, smirked and said something about how I only married him for his name and whatever property he thinks we have. Which is absurd because we have a mortgage and a car that barely passes inspection each year. I tried to intervene, saying, "Can we not do this in front of the kids?" But Kieran cut me off. He said, "Maybe if you put half as much effort into the marriage as you do into feeling sorry for yourself, we'd have a decent meal." Yes, he said that in front of everyone. No one spoke. Alexa poured herself another glass of wine and pretended to scroll on her phone. The kids went quiet, which was worse than the giggling. I sat there because what else could I do? If I spoke, I'd be dramatic. If I left, I'd be making a scene. It continued. William brought up my job, calling it cute, but saying I should focus on the home because that's what real women do. For the record, my mom worked, and our house didn't burn down. He then criticized how I dress, saying leggings aren't real pants and that, in his day, women cared about appearance. I wasn't even looking bad. I was in comfortable clothes because I'd been running errands and cleaning all day. Alexa said nothing, just stared at the wall as if waiting for it to move. Kieran sat there, acting like this was normal, picking at his food as if he were above it. I tried to get the kids to eat, but they were watching everything, and they're old enough to sense when something's wrong. My daughter started to say she liked the food, but William talked over her, saying, "Of course she does, kids don't know any better." I wanted to tell him to shut up, but I was exhausted. I didn't feel like fighting. I just wanted dinner to end. So I took my phone and scrolled. I checked Instagram and texted my sister something like, "Kill me." She sent back a meme, which didn't help. I heard William say something about how my generation is soft, and how, if I'd been in his house, I'd have been sent packing long ago. Kieran actually laughed. I didn't recognize him acting like that. I get that he's always seeking his dad's approval, but why at my expense? It makes no sense. Eventually, I stood up and started collecting plates, not because I wanted to, but because I needed something to do. Alexa said I looked upset, and I ignored her. I took the plates to the sink, not slamming them but not caring if they chipped. Kieran asked if I was going to cry, which was insane because I was just trying to get through the night without screaming. I told him I was fine. He rolled his eyes. The kids went to their room after dessert. I let them take their tablets because, honestly, I didn't care about screen time limits that night. Alexa tried to make small talk about the weather, as if nothing had happened. William muttered about how the world's gone mad. Kieran asked what was for dinner tomorrow. I almost laughed. I told him I didn't know and suggested he ask his dad for recipes. He didn't think it was funny. I finished the dishes and went to our room. I locked the door, more out of habit than anything. I scrolled TikTok for about an hour, mostly out of spite. Kieran came in later, didn't say anything changed, and went to sleep. I lay there, thinking about how I'm supposed to act normal after that. I didn't sleep. I thought about leaving, not permanently, but maybe going somewhere for the weekend, taking the kids, getting space. But then I considered how much work that would be and whether I was running away or actually doing something. I thought my friends would say it's just how in-laws are, or that Kieran's just stressed. So that's where I was, feeling like I was waiting for something to snap. I couldn't just let this go, but I didn't know what to do next. I kept thinking about how easily they tore me down in my own house, like I'm some inconvenience there to cook and take up space. I thought about how Kieran looked at me, embarrassed, and how William clearly hates me for not being his version of a woman. Alexa just lets it happen because she's done that her whole life. I'm not saying I'm a perfect wife or mom. I have days when I just want to scroll my phone and let the house go to chaos. I forget things. I get cranky. I dress for comfort, not for others. But I don't think I deserve to be treated like that. Not by them, definitely not by Kieran. I kept thinking about what would happen if I stopped doing everything, letting them see what it's like when I'm not holding it together. Anyway, sorry if this is a rant. I needed to get it out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't keep letting this happen. I'm not the person who takes it and smiles anymore. I'll update. First update. I'm back, and it's wild how fast things can go sideways once you stop pretending everything's fine. I woke up the morning after that dinner, and the house felt off. Kieran was up, acting like nothing happened, making coffee, scrolling his phone at the counter. He offered me the last of the oat milk, as if it were a huge favor. I stared at him, amazed at how someone can be so clueless and smug. The kids were unusually quiet, which isn't normal in our house. Usually, it's chaos. Someone's fighting over the charger, someone's yelling about a missing hoodie. But they ate cereal, barely talking, glancing at me, then at Kieran. I asked my daughter if she wanted her blue sneakers. She always does, and she just shrugged. My son tried to joke about the pasta, saying, "At least it didn't have peas," but stopped when he saw my face. They knew something was wrong. I got everyone out for school drop-off and sat in my car for 10 minutes after. I scrolled Reddit, got halfway through a thread about neighbor drama, then realized I was numb. I texted my friend Tara. We're not super close, but she's the type who speaks her mind. I sent, "Family dinner was a disaster. Wanna get coffee?" She agreed. We met at a busy place that miraculously had a free table. I told her what happened, and she stared, then went off. "Your father-in-law is a dinosaur, and Kieran's always been too eager to impress him." I laughed, but she's right. She asked why I let them treat me like that, and I didn't have an answer. I said, it's easier to ignore than fight every time, but I knew that was a lie. She said maybe it's easier, but it's not better. She's right. By the time I got home, Kieran had texted 3 times, asking if I was coming back for lunch. We never do lunch together, so I don't know what that was about. I ignored him, started thinking about dinner, then stopped. Why am I planning meals for people who treat me like the help? Not today. I didn't cook. I ordered pizza for the kids, pepperoni for my son, cheese for my daughter to avoid complaints. Kieran came home, saw the pizza boxes, and asked if I was done sulking. I said maybe I'm just done, period. He rolled his eyes, muttered that I never let things go. I said, yeah, I'm not letting this go. Not this time. Then Alexa showed up, barely knocking, acting concerned but clearly wanting to smooth things over. She asked to talk privately, so we went to the hallway. She said, I know William's comments can be harsh, but he's old-fashioned. Don't take it personally. I stared at her and said, he called me lazy and useless in front of my kids. She replied, he doesn't mean it like that. You know how he is. I said, yes, and I'm done pretending it's okay. She tried to guilt-trip me about keeping the family together and how Kieran's under pressure. I said, pressure from what? Sitting there while his dad trashes his wife. She looked uncomfortable, played with her purse zipper and said, William just wants what's best for Kieran. I asked. What about what's best for me or the kids? She didn't answer. She said, you're not like the women in our family. You don't just do what needs to be done. I replied, maybe that's the problem. She slammed the door on her way out. Kieran didn't mention it. He grabbed a beer, sat in front of the TV, and the kids stayed in their room with their tablets, volume too loud, but I didn't care. I sat at the dining table, scrolling old photos, trying to remember when things got this bad. Maybe they always were, and I ignored it. The next morning, I decided I was done being the default house manager. I didn't do laundry, pick up socks, wipe counters, or unload the dishwasher. Kieran asked if I'd seen his blue shirt. I said, try the laundry basket. He glared as if I'd ruined his day. I shrugged. The kids noticed. My daughter asked for pancakes, and I said, sure, if you help make them. She agreed, and we did. Kieran didn't eat. Alexa texted, saying, you can't stop doing things because you're upset. I ignored her. I realized how much I do around here. Not in a self-sacrificing way, but literally, nothing gets done unless I do it. I started taking pictures. Groceries, receipts, laundry piles, my calendar with appointments and school stuff. I put them in a phone folder, not for proof, but to see it myself. Kieran saw me taking pictures and asked what I was doing. I said, just documenting. He rolled his eyes and called me dramatic. By the end of the week, the house felt different. The kids asked more questions. My daughter wanted to visit my mom, not Alexa. I said maybe, but Grandma lives 3 hours away. My mom called, asking if everything was okay. I said not really, but I'm figuring it out. She offered to come, but I said not yet. On Saturday, William called. I answered, wanting to hear him. He started with his usual, back in my day, nonsense about women serving husbands. I said, it's not your day anymore. He said, you're going to ruin this family with your attitude. I replied, maybe it needs ruining. He hung up. Later, Alexa came over with groceries and a fake smile, saying, I brought things for dinner. Let's start over. I said, I'm not cooking. She looked shocked. I said, if you want to cook, the kitchen's there. She huffed, started chopping vegetables, and made something with too much garlic. The kids barely ate. Kieran ate silently, then left the table. My son asked for pizza tomorrow. After dinner, I went for a walk, taking my phone but leaving my watch. I needed air. When I returned, Kieran was in the bedroom, scrolling. I asked if he wanted to talk. He said, about what? I said, everything. He replied, I'm tired. Can we not? I said, sure, left, and sat in the hallway not to cry but to be away from him. The next day, I started planning. I listed everything I do. Kids' needs, errands, everything. I moved some stuff to the guest room. Kieran noticed and asked what I was doing. I said, I need space. He laughed and called me ridiculous. I said, maybe. He tried to grab my arm, but I pulled away. He slammed the door. I took the kids for ice cream, and we ate in the car, listening to music. My daughter asked if we were going on vacation. I said, not yet, but maybe soon. My son hoped for a pool. When we got home, Kieran's car was gone. I got the kids ready for bed and scrolled, looking up places to stay. I texted Tara, asking about a spare room. She said she'd check, but warned it might take time. I said I'm done, waiting for things to get better. Second update. I thought I'd hit my breaking point, but apparently, there's always further to fall before you act. When things get tense, even small things, like a missing charger or milk left out, feel huge. That was this week. The house was messy, not terribly, just normal. Shoes everywhere, snack crumbs, unfolded laundry. Kieran acted like it was the end of the world, sighing loudly, commenting on how no one respects the house. He said it to the kids, to me, even to his mom on speakerphone. Alexa agreed, saying when she was my age, she had 3 kids, kept a perfect house, and cooked every meal from scratch. I laughed, which she didn't like. I started saying, then do it yourself. The kids mimicked me, which made me feel guilty, but also, why should they think it's only my job? Kieran got more annoyed daily. I started leaving early, taking the kids for breakfast or to the park, avoiding the house. He texted, asking where we were. I said out. Once he called about lunch and I said no, he hung up. On Tuesday, I came home to find Alexa in the kitchen, going through the fridge, saying she was helping because things were slipping. I said, you don't live here. She said, I'm trying to keep things together. I replied, go home. She slammed the fridge and stormed out. Kieran came in mad, asking what I said to his mom. I told him she was overstepping. He said, "This is my family's house too." I replied, "Then maybe your family should do the work." He raised his voice. I didn't back down. He got in my face, and for the first time I pushed him, not hard, just to make him back off. He stared, then slapped the wall and stomped out. I was surprised he didn't say more. Things got cold. He slept in the living room. The kids didn't ask why. I let them watch extra Netflix. I texted my mom that things were bad. She said, "Come here if you need." I said I'd think about it. Tara texted about a spare room. I said maybe soon. On Thursday, Kieran came home in a mood, slamming the door, not removing his shoes. The kids and I were doing a puzzle in the kitchen. He saw the mess and lost it, saying, "Is this how we live now?" "Garbage everywhere," I said. "It's a puzzle, not garbage." He shoved the puzzle off the table. My daughter cried. I told him to get out. He said, "This is my house." I replied, "Not for long." He stormed out. I picked up the pieces, put the kids in their room, and called my mom. I said, "I need to get out." She said, "Come tomorrow." I agreed but didn't want to just run. I wanted Kieran to understand. I went to the living room, where he sat staring at a blank TV. I said, "I'm taking the kids." He said, "You can't decide that." I replied, "Watch me." He tried to grab my arm. I slapped his hand away and said, "Don't touch me." He glared and said, "You're blowing up this family over a stupid dinner." I said, "No, because you treat me like trash and let your parents do it too." He said, "It's in your head." I showed him my phone folder, receipts, calendars, appointments. He glanced for 2 seconds and tossed my phone on the couch. I packed overnight bags for the kids, told them we were going to Grandma's, and my daughter asked if Daddy was coming. I said, "Not now." My son asked if it was because of the puzzle. I said, "No, it's not your fault." As we left, Kieran tried to block the door. I shoved past. He yelled, "You'll regret this." I said, "We'll see." We drove 3 hours to my mom's. The kids slept halfway. I listened to music, trying not to think. My mom hugged me, made up the guest room, and let me rant. She said, "You don't have to go back if you don't want to." The next day, Kieran blew up my phone, calls, texts, voicemails, from "Come home" to "You're ruining everything" to "I'll change." I ignored him. Alexa texted about tearing the family apart, saying William was beside himself. William called my mom's landline, leaving a message calling me a disgrace. My mom unplugged the phone. We spent the weekend relaxing, park, pancakes with my mom, movies, late bedtimes. I realized how easy it was to breathe without judgment. Kieran tried guilt-tripping me, saying the kids needed their dad. I sent him a picture of the calendar with appointments he never attended and said, "You can see them at my mom's if you keep your temper." He hasn't tried. I told my mom I needed to figure out next steps. I texted Tara about the spare room. It's still available. The final straw was Kieran texting my daughter's old tablet, saying, "Tell mommy to call daddy." She asked if she had to. I said, "No, you don't have to do anything uncomfortable. I'm done. He can keep his parents, house, and attitude. I'll take peace and pancakes at my mom's over walking on eggshells. I haven't blocked him completely for the kids' sake, but I'm not making it easy. Maybe he'll remember what it's like to come home to an empty house and a cold pizza box. Maybe not. I don't care. I'm done. Last update. If you want to know how many people think they own your life, disappear for 3 days with your kids. My phone wouldn't stop. Everyone's suddenly a marriage expert, acting like I'm a criminal for wanting pancakes at my mom's instead of being screamed at over pasta. I'm impressed by their creativity, but I'm tired. I'm not going back, no matter how many times they call. We're at my mom's, small house, mismatched mugs, a fridge full of leftovers, slow Wi-Fi. She's making my childhood favorites, even the potato salad I hated, which the kids love. I slept through the night for the first time in forever. The kids are thriving. My daughter waters the plants. My son's obsessed with my mom's puzzles. They haven't mentioned Kieran, except to ask about bringing stuffed animals next time. That says a lot. Kieran's calls started with, "Are you okay?" "Come home," then turned angry. "You're dramatic, ruining this family." Then guilt. "The kids miss me." I muted him, not blocking completely for the kids' sake. Alexa sent 12 texts about family and how I'm hurting Kieran, embarrassing them. She called, I let it go to voicemail. She called the landline. My mom answered saying, "Talk to your son, not my daughter," and hung up. William left a long voicemail. "You never respected our family. You made Kieran weak. You're a burden." My mom deleted it saying, "Some people never change." Tara's checking in, offering coffee, donuts, or just to sit in the driveway. I said maybe soon. She gets it, having been through family drama. Kieran called my dad, who barely gets along with him, saying I ran away like a teenager. My dad called huffy, but after I explained, he said, "I'm glad you're safe. Let me know if you need anything." That's huge for him. Everyone wants a say. Kieran's cousin DM'd me on Facebook after 5 years, but no one asked how I'm feeling or if the kids are happy. It's about their comfort, image, peace. Kieran's texting about medical records, school app logins, dentist appointments, grocery lists, towels, trash pickup. I sent info for big stuff, but ignored the rest. Figure it out like I did. Alexa said William's losing sleep over the family falling apart. I said he should have thought of that before calling me a burden. She called me petty. I said maybe. She said, "You'll regret this." I replied, "Not as much as staying." Money got weird. We split bills, some mine, some his, groceries, whoever had time. Now he's realizing what I did. He demanded mortgage money, saying I'm cruel. I said, "You wanted to be the man of the house, act like it." My mom high-fived me. The kids haven't asked about him much. My daughter called him once. They talked for 5 minutes. She wanted to go back to puzzles. William showed up at my mom's. She made him stay on the porch, saying he should have treated me like family. He left red-faced. The school asked if the kids were okay. I said we're fine, explained the move, and the counselor offered support. The first time anyone asked what we needed. I'm not moving back. I'm done pretending for a man who only cared about his dad's approval, or a family who saw me as a maid and scapegoat. Kieran's texts alternate between anger, begging, and old photos. I mute him. He can see the kids at my mom's if he behaves. He hasn't tried. I'm not apologizing. The phone will keep ringing, but I don't have to answer. I'll figure out school and details, but I'd rather do that than be a ghost in my life. Thanks for reading. I'll update if anything wild happens, but for now I'm here and that's enough.